Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Fergo and The Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And join me as always is the glorious League Freak. You can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
I'm really good today, Andrew. How are you?
Not too bad. I've had a hard look at myself.
Yeah, I'm going forward. I'm going to have a hard look at myself, and it's going to be a look. I'm going to have it. It's going to be hard, firm, and I think from there going forward, everything will go forward.
Yeah, after the hard look, top to bottom, have a look at everything, top to bottom,
Yeah.
except for myself, but we'll
Yeah,
have a hard look.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm fine. It's not me.
No.
Everything top to bottom, but below me.
That's right, yeah. Top to bottom, not to the sides where you are.
Exactly. So you get it.
That's right. That's right. So people might be wondering what the hell we're talking about. 2 words. Anthony Seibold.
Exactly.
So we're recording this a few hours after Parramatta has just completely obliterated Brisbane in the finals match in week 1. Parramatta won 58-0. It was the highest score ever recorded by a team in a finals match. It was the highest winning margin by a team in a finals match. It was the Broncos' 300th premiership loss. A complete clusterfuck for the Broncos. And afterwards, Anthony Seibold's come out and pretty much said that he'll take all responsibility before throwing the entire squad under the bus and saying he's not looking at himself, he's fine.
Yeah, it was. We just watched the full press conference just now, like about 30 seconds ago, and it was an uncomfortable thing to watch. He seems like a guy that doesn't really have any answers, and that worries me in terms of I think even a bad coach is going to have answers. They might not be the right answers, but just the personality type that a first-grade coach is, they kind of feel as though they know what needs to happen. And when you see a team get annihilated like that, and after the season that they've had, I'm really uncomfortable with the coach sitting there and sort of just saying, oh, well, we got to look at everything. Because that's easy to say, but he's said a lot of things like that during the season where we go back to when they got smashed by the Storm. And he kept on talking about how crazy the game was, and it was crazy, and they didn't handle it, and it was crazy. And it was like, no, I want more from my coach. I want my coach to be able to break things down. I want him to be able to talk about some of the in-depth things that need to happen. And Seibold just doesn't do that. And he might not do that for a reason in the media, but it comes across really poorly, especially when you line it up with the results that the Broncos have got this year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that got me too is he's like that kid who gets very easily distracted by pretty things in this classroom. Like every time the media started talking about something unrelated to the Broncos on the field,
Mm-hmm.
he'd be consumed by it. Like think of the 2 times that they played against South, and Wayne Bennett said practically nothing those whole times. There was no people even talk about mind games. There was none. He just went, I don't care. I'm not talking about this shit anymore. And Seibold just he got consumed by it wholly, completely.
Yeah, at one point he was having a running argument with like one of the South Sydney assistant coaches.
Yeah,
it's like, what are you doing? Yeah, like you're and I don't think of any coach, any club better than any other club, right? They're all just clubs. But you're the coach of the Brisbane Broncos. Like you've got one of the plum jobs in all of rugby league, and you're arguing with an assistant coach at South Sydney. Like, what do you see? Why did he even think of doing that?
I don't know. It's nuts, and he just seems to get so easily distracted from his own task and his own job, and gets caught up in this media crap. He should have just said, I'm not going to talk about that. I couldn't care less. I've moved on from there. But no, he just bought into it and took all the bait and kept going with it. And an interesting thing that came out of the press conference too is he was almost blaming, I should say, the fact that they conceded so many tries on the 5th tackle. And I went, wow, it's like Paul McGregor's talking again.
Yeah.
You know, what a feeble excuse. Like you
Yeah,
can't try and take things away from the opposition because they scored tries on the last. You're supposed to defend for every single tackle on the set. It doesn't make it a more noble loss if you lost 58-0 because the opposition scored all their tries on the fourth tackle. Like, what the fuck?
you know what would be really cool? You know how you're good at making graphs? You should make a graph of like that goes from zero tackle all the way up to the sixth tackle about when it's not too bad to score, like have a score a try put on you. So like the first tackle, it's like completely fine, but on the fifth tackle, it's like a horror show. It's like the worst thing ever, and so we can work it out. That'd be fantastic because that seems to be what Seabold's working on.
Well, I think he's of the impression that the longer you go in the set, the least amount of points you should be getting for a try. If you score a try on the fifth tackle, you should only get like a quarter of a point. But if you scored on the first, then well done. You're pretty good. You deserve the full 4 points. I think that's kind of the mentality he's going into it with,
Yeah.
and it comes from the same sort of school of thinking as Paul McGregor. He likes to think that tries off kicks should be knocked down a few pegs and off tap-ons and tip-offs and bat-ons and whatever else he calls them.
Yeah.
They should all be downgraded because they're just lucky tries. They shouldn't be worth as much.
It's funny how that always works only when the opposition scores them tries. When it's their team
Yes.
scoring them tries, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like how many tries does Hunt need to kick off of goalposts and stuff and regather? Really good at doing that, by the way, Ben Hunt. But that
This
like,
is
how do you discount that?
Well, if you do it on the first, that's
Oh,
6 points. But if you do it on the last, well, maybe half a point, maybe one
half,
point.
half a point sounds good to me.
Yeah, yeah.
That would, you know
So
what? If we put that into practice today, I tell you what, Broncos only lose by about, I don't know, 28 points to nil.
that's right. Thing is, they still lose. That's what makes the whole freaking argument stupid.
Yeah, yeah, so
Uh,
dumb.
he said they got a whiff, or he got a whiff, that this sort of performance was coming after last week's performance against the Bulldogs. Now, last week, the Bulldogs put 30 on the Broncos. 30. This is one of the worst attacking sides over the last 2 years. They
Yeah,
strolled through the Broncos like they were nothing.
with nothing to play for. Not a single thing to play for the Bulldogs.
Yeah. And the Broncos needed a win to completely lock down their spot in the finals because there was that weird situation where if they had lost and the Sharks-Tigers game had been a draw, then the Broncos were out. Obviously, it's a long shot thing, but still, that should be enough motivation for a coach to say, right, we definitely need to win this to lock it down. So it doesn't matter what crazy shit goes on at Leichhardt, we're in, doesn't matter. And couldn't get them up for it.
Wouldn't it
Um,
be cool if the Broncos had some sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like an experienced overseer of the playing staff who, when they saw things like that, could do something to combat the team's mentality going into really important games.
yeah, well, I think they're probably paying for one.
So, well, they just need someone. I don't even know what you'd call it, like someone to coach them.
Yeah,
That would be wonderful.
yeah. Uh, so Seabell was pretty much carrying out for his all of his young players, and let's be honest, he's brought quite a few of them through this year.
Hmm.
But he didn't really defend the senior players. He didn't say anything bad about them. He didn't single them out. It was more the fact that he didn't include them when he was trying to defend players. He only defended the young players.
It was a bit weird, hey.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where he said a lot by not saying something, and he only talked about his young players, by the way, which was weird, and he gave them praise, and some backhanded compliments, I would say, but he didn't say anything about his senior players, which, I mean, it wasn't like he said our senior players tried their best or our senior players tried to guide the younger players to where they needed to be. Nothing like that. Not even like our senior players were good this week. Nothing.
no, he made no effort, and oh boy, he's got some work to do with that squad. I To start with, and we were saying it ages ago, if he had to keep Darius Boyd in the side, put him on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an absolute liability for that club all year to have him at fullback when he wasn't performing and they were losing all those games. And all the things he did, he moved him to 5'8". Just,
Yeah.
and that's not even a slight on Darius. It's the fact that when was the last time Darius Boyd, prior to this year, ever played in the halves? Like, why would you do that? It makes zero sense. I mean,
And and
James
after having
Tedesco's a great
Milford
fullback.
there, like
Yeah,
Milford had played fullback, and then he was in the halves, and like just as Milford was really getting going at 5'8", he moves him to fullback.
yeah. And Milford ended up having to do two jobs, like fullback and 5'8". And
Yeah,
admittedly, he did brilliantly at it, but it just also made him a bigger target for opposition defences, and it also made Brisbane easier to, I suppose, keep quiet in attack because you just had to shut down Milford and you were fine. And that's exactly what Parramatta did from kickoff today. Not only did they hit Milford, but they hit him hard.
hmm
They hit him hard early, and it was all
and he's not
legal,
a big
but
dude.
no. But they punished him. It meant that he was a little bit more timid than normal. I'm not saying it was timid's probably not the right word, but he was less inclined to get involved in the game because of it, because he knew he was going to get punished, and he was.
Yeah, yeah,
But they were outclassed.
yeah.
It,
On all across the park, I thought the way their defense was just absolutely terrible. It goes without saying,
pedestrian.
but their reads were off, their effort was bad, and it was all across the field, from wing to wing, it was like that. Parramatta just come out with the finals intensity, and the Broncos didn't. And I think that it's just something that we've seen out of the Broncos, that they're almost like a flat track bully, I guess, in terms of like when things start to go their way, they can look pretty amazing. But if a single little thing goes against them, you got them. Like, you're going to beat them. And I think we saw that a lot this year. There weren't too many games where they really overcome a deficit, or they overcome something that every team has to overcome something. Every single one. Even the Titans overcome things this year to win games. So, yeah, it was just a pathetic performance, really pathetic. And I think that if Seabold has any sense, he'll tell Darius, man, you can stay, but you're playing reserve grade all year. He'd do the same thing to McCulloch if McCulloch is still on contract. They need some big changes, and I think they need to change the way they're playing football as well, because it's hard to see. It's hard to see that this side has a real direction. And I said it earlier this year that I felt Seabold come in with Wayne Bennett's team, and everyone comes in with someone else's team at first, and he just took a steady as she goes sort of approach to it. And then when he did make changes, it seemed like the changes were detrimental to the Broncos.
Yeah, I think the only thing he had going for him at South was he had a great front row rotation,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the play centre around Damien Cook, who is bloody lightning fast out of dummy half.
Yeah.
And I think for the start of this year, he's tried to implement the same thing, but with Andrew McCulloch, he could probably get outrun by, I don't know, Matt Dunning.
Yeah, McCulloch is done. And so's Darius Boyd, and that's two of your 13 on the field are done. And we see when Seguiaro comes on, it's such a difference. It's a massive difference. And with the forward pack that the Broncos do have, and they're very young, so you have to keep that in mind. But with that forward pack, they should be throwing things at opposition teams in the middle of the field that no one can handle in the entire league. Like, they've got big, mobile, fast, hard-running young players in their pack, and up the middle third of the field, they should be an absolute nightmare. And out of dummy half, it should be the last thing you want, is to see the dummy half run at the Broncos. And it's just, they don't really have that. I don't get it.
No, they're clueless. They need. I don't know how they're going to afford it, but they need a pair of halves for next year.
Yeah.
And they can't have rookies. They need someone with experience in there. Boyd has to go.
Yep.
McCulloch, I'd be sending him off.
Yep.
That's to start with. The just getting. I mean, you get rid of those two, you're going to be able to afford two decent halves.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got to look at other matters. And it's funny because there was a quote that he had in that press conference. He said, "We've got to take a real good hard look at everything from top to bottom," and then had a pause. And I went, "Shit, that might mean me." within the playing group.
Yeah. It's and this is the thing. I mean, I want my coach to know it's not a top to bottom thing at the Broncos, right? We know that they've got some really, really good players there. We know that they've got a really good young pack. We know that Seguiaro, even if you take him off the bench as a strike weapon, is fantastic. We know that Milford is a capable fullback, a pretty damn good 5'8" once he gets going. There's just other areas where the Broncos are not. I mean, they're outside backs outside of Stag. I just don't rate them, you know. And how often have you been able to say that about the Brisbane Broncos? You know, there's just things with this team. It should be straight away, should know what they are instead of this wishy-washy stuff where it's like, oh, we'll have a look at everything. It's like, no, that's not how it works, man. You got to be focused. It's like he has no focus himself. And so how can you expect a team to have a focus?
That's right. Yeah, there's one player they've got there which everyone's forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In his last season for his previous club, he played 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
It says been at the Broncos for the last 2 years. He's also played just 17 games. That's Jack Bird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they signed him on, I believe, on big coin.
Mm-hmm.
If he's fit and healthy, finally, at the start of next year, do you play him in the centres or do you play him at 5'8"?
I play him in the centres, and
likewise.
I mean, I think if you're playing him at 5'8", that's a makeshift 5'8", and if you're going to do that, put Milford in there, you know, because he's better than a makeshift 5'8".
Yeah. The thing is, I remember when Bird was at the Sharks,
mm-hmm.
he wanted to play fullback.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Brisbane says, you know what, if you're up to it, your body's back in good health and you're 100% ready to go, I'd consider putting Bird at fullback and Milford back at 5'8". Because at least then you've got a pair. Because Bird does run the ball back hard.
Yeah,
and he does have good ball playing skills, good passing game. His short kicking game is not too bad. You can't use him for long kicks. But then you've got Milford back in control of the game. So if you need to have a young half, then he can help cover that a bit better there. Like, you can't have a young 7 who's trying to learn the ropes and get used to the pressures of the game, and then have the pedestrian Darius Boyd out of position playing crap.
Yeah.
As your senior halves partner.
That's a recipe for disaster. And there's been, I mean, how many times have we seen that with young players? And, I mean, there was even times this year for the Panthers where people would say, oh, what about Nathan Cleary and how he's playing? And it's like, man, he was the only half player that we had when Maloney was out, and teams knew you shut him down, you shut down the Panthers, and there was no one to help him out for a long time this year. You can't have that for a young halfback, because all they're going to learn is bad habits, you know, how to get out of, you know, terrible situations, rather than learning how to play proper halfback play in the NRL.
Exactly.
You know, that fullback role at Brisbane, they really should just put it out there that it's available, because they'll get talent knocking on their door saying, listen, I'd love to be the Broncos fullback. And they'd get their pick of a number of good players. But I feel like they're not going to do that, hey?
Well, there's a few options around everywhere. I mean, you know, Bevan French, I mean, he's not setting the world on fire or anything like that, but I mean, he'd have been handy enough. Got plenty of speed. If they need to, go sniff around the Sharks. They got that young William Kennedy Jr. there.
Mm-hmm.
I got big raps on that kid. Fucking chase him. It's one of those positions where if you've got a young guy who's keen and eager to go, then you can accept a few mistakes along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Classic example is Charles Nickel-Klokstad.
Yeah.
Like Ricky Stewart accepted there was going to be a few mistakes early on until he got comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
until he got a bit of consistency in his game, and once that happened, he's been, undoubtedly by the year.
Yep. 100%.
Undoubtedly.
I
That's
mean,
what you get out of that youthfulness, and you have them at fullback. They've got that freedom to roam.
Yeah, and like you look at the Cowboys, they got Drinkwater.
Yep.
Midway through the year. There are a lot of really good players that can play fullback in the NRL.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them.
Pappenheisen?
Yeah, just put it out there. They will come running for that job. Because, a good young player, especially Queenslander, man, that's the job. That's the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll get noticed by origin selectors and shit like that straight away too, because you're playing up there.
100%. You mentioned Bevan French just now, right? I would take, apart from Stagg, I would have Bevan French in their backs ahead of any of the other backs they've got right now that they ran out tonight. In terms of the outside backs, I mean. Like, at least Bevan French is going to give you some strike.
Yeah. He's a genuine try scorer.
Yeah, a proper one. Yeah.
Yeah. They need something like that. Lot to work on there, Anthony. Not just your squad, but yourself as well.
From top to bottom.
Yep. Not just the playing squad.
We should talk about the Eels, hey. They were absolutely outstanding.
You know what was crazy about them today? Is that that's the first time I've actually seen them decide to go out with a proper game plan and attack 3 different points on the Broncos' defensive line.
Yep.
Right in the middle, right edge, left edge. They didn't go for the corridors between the two. It was either really wide or in the middle. And once they exploited one of them, they went back there until the Brisbane defensive line changed. And then they changed their ploy and went somewhere else. And credit where it's due. A lot of that came down to the good control that Mitch Moses had in that game, because there was a moment there in the second half, the end of the first half, where he saw the Brisbane defence had corrected itself on the right side, and he was on the right side, and he got the ball out there, and he sent a glorious long ball back to the left.
Yep. And
Parramatta scored there. And then they went back and did the same play a couple of minutes later, another try. Brisbane at that stage were clueless. They didn't know what they could do anymore. And that's when Parramatta said, we've got them. It's party time, guys. Just
and they steamrolled. And as you say, Moses and Dylan Brown were just, they were perfect today. They did exactly what you wanted. They were reading the defence. They were seeing what was on offer. That it was absolutely magnificent by the both of them. And I can't remember the last time that we saw a team use their wingers and their centres so much in a big game. It's that left hand side of Lane and Jennings and Sevo.
Yeah,
that's been good for them all year, but it was friggin' unreal in this game. And Sevo is just, wow. He is just unbelievable. Just get him as much ball as possible. He's not only, I feel like I want to call him a wrecking ball, but it's not explaining that this guy, you can get him the ball, he can smash through the first guy and then flies up the field. And he's got really good game awareness. He doesn't just pin his ears back. He knows that he's got to look for support in certain situations and things like that. And Jennings really, really works well with him. All of Jennings' experience, you see that coming out with Sevo. He really uses Sevo well. It's great.
Jennings has been great for him out there, because that's the thing. You look at Sevo, and even today, there's still times that you go, this kid's still got to improve some yet.
Yeah.
He took that ball for was it his first or second try, and he juggled the ball as he's going along the sideline. He was thinking run and score before he thought of catching the ball first.
Mm-hmm.
It's just those little things where you just need to say, Micah, just stop, get the ball first, then do your fancy shit. You can do it all. You got plenty of time, mate. Look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just know he's still got improving left in him.
It's
He's still
crazy.
going to get better.
It's crazy. And I
It's
tell you what,
insane.
there was a play in that game with Ferguson on the other wing, and he got the ball, and he was in a bit of a funny position that he could have really stuffed it up, but you could see that polish between him and Sevo in
Yeah,
terms of like Ferguson knew what he needed to do to get to the try line, and he just made it look easy at the end of the day. And when Sevo gets there, man, it is going to be just a nightmare for opposition clubs.
yeah. He's going to have a great off season.
Mm,
He's going to be one hard unit to stop next year because he's just going to be faster and stronger and more skilled. His hands are going to be better, and he's got just bootloads of confidence. The other thing I wanted to say today too is, and they have got no credit because this is what happens when a team wins by 50. The
mm,
forwards never get credit,
mm.
and Joseph Paulo had 100 meters within the first, what was it, 25 minutes of the game.
It was ridiculous.
He murdered him through the middle.
Yeah.
And
And like their forwards, as you say, they didn't stop. Like they were blasting them later in the game, getting turnovers, like carving them up right through the middle of their pack.
yeah,
Well, just such an incredible, complete performance. Like I'm watching it. We've both taken the piss out of Parramatta a lot this year. I've been very, very critical of Brad Arthur. We've been critical of Moses and Gutherson. This is maybe the most complete performance that we've seen this year out of any club.
yes. And yeah, I'm not afraid to give credit where it's due and say that they had stunning games.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, Moses' control was phenomenal. I mean, there wasn't much Gutherson had to do. Everyone else did all the work for him. He just had to sit back and just
Yeah.
watch the show.
I just wonder what Parramatta would be like if they had a fullback that just got the ball and run it back hard.
That's the one thing.
Mm.
And I wonder if it's worthwhile putting Ferguson at fullback. But then you've got to put Gutherson somewhere because they
Yeah.
just love him so much. I've got to put him somewhere. Um, but yeah, I'd just love to see what would happen if it doesn't even have to have him there the whole game. Just have
Mhm.
Ferguson drop back to be fullback for the kick return. That's it.
Can
You
you,
can just play on the wing for the rest of the game.
can you imagine if they had got Watini Zalesniak and they played him at fullback? So you got him, you just show him video of when he was playing for New Zealand last year and say, we just want that. That's it.
Yeah,
Don't nothing special. Just run it back hard. And you got him and their giant wingers and oh my God. Oh.
they're getting very close. Now the big concern
Hmm.
Parramatta has
Hmm.
is they do have a fairly youngish sort of side across the park,
Yep.
and they tend to get a bit confident after a big win.
Yeah, it was, I understand it, right? And especially at that stadium where it's 30,000 Parramatta fans, and it would have sounded maybe as loud as, I don't know, 80,000 ANZ. Like, that's what that place is like. So I really do get it. Biggest finals win ever. But they were celebrating a bit too much for me, Andrew.
I'm worried about that. Okay, look, there's a few examples. Okay, obviously this year when they spanked the Tigers 51-6 in that first game at Bankwest, the following week they lost to a woeful performing Newcastle side, 28-14. I think Newcastle only had one win at that stage, so that was their second of the year. They then beat St George Illawarra after that, 32-18, and the Dragons had won 4-4, I think.
Hmm.
They're still travelling okay. And so they beat them pretty well. The next week they lost 64-10 to the Storm.
Yeah. And,
Um,
and
and
who are they
then
playing next?
at the end of the year, well, that's true. And towards the end of the year, they beat the Titans 36-12,
Hmm.
easy win. The following week, they then lost to the Bulldogs 12-6 in what was one of the most dire performances they've had. And that's only going back a few weeks.
Yeah.
So my concern for them is they're coming up against the Melbourne side that's just lost at home to Canberra.
Yeah.
And when Melbourne has a loss at home, I think after their last loss to Canberra, they came out and spanked someone. They had a scrappy game against the Titans, that's right, and then they were clockwork against Manly, beat them 36-6 up at Lottoland.
Yeah.
that 36-6 performance that the Storm had against Manly, I would be fully expecting that to turn up against Parramatta this weekend.
Yeah, and it's, man, I don't know how you combat it though. I don't know how, because I was watching them celebrate, and I'm like, and they do have experienced players in their team, but there are also a lot of guys that aren't experienced, and
it's a young spine.
And I was trying to think to myself, like, how do you approach it so that you don't deflate them, right? But you prepare them for going into the meat grinder, and you go from being like the kings of the world to, you're just the bums that are across the field from a really good team, because that's what it's going to feel like to them when they go out there. And like, it's a really, really difficult position for, I think, any coach ever to be in. And I don't know how you handle that. You know,
I think they need to be shown the tape from when they lost 64-10. Like, first thing tomorrow.
Does that deflate them, though?
No.
Because you've got all these young kids or these young players, that they feel like they can take on the world. Are you worried that you can bring them down and undermine their confidence yourself?
Well, this is the thing, though. They went into that game against Melbourne confident when they lost 64-10.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I think they need to watch that game and go, this is what happens if we go into a game too confident.
Yeah.
Get your feet back on the ground, right? So if they start feeling a bit down, go, right, we're now going to watch what we did last weekend. See the difference. Now, don't get too cocky. Focus on this week. Last week matters zero now. So reset, start over. We're back at square one.
I think I would also get, and I would normally not say this, but I think I would also get some of the old Parramatta heads in.
Well, hang on. There's a problem here.
They're very, very old.
There's a story which came out last week.
Okay.
About Brett Kenny, how he went to some players' function.
Yeah.
And Dylan Brown didn't know who he was.
All right.
Yeah. And Brett Kenny was saying that a lot of these players need to be taught, about the past players and what they've done for the club. And Dylan Brown wasn't disrespectful.
No,
he just went up to him, isn't he? He just went up and said, "Sorry, mate, what was your name again?"
Yeah.
And Brett Kenny wasn't having a whinge either.
Yeah, he's just saying that's what it is. Yeah,
it was just an observing sort of thing because Brett Kenny's not a whinging sort of bloke.
No,
no. That was kind of the thing though. When you mentioned, I went, "Oh, there was a story about how they don't even remember him. So much point bringing them up if they don't know who they are."
I mean, maybe they should pick and choose. Like, I just feel as though they need. It's the experienced players in the team will help that, and I don't think the coach himself can really help them in that sense. But I would like to get some people into their ears that have been there, that have done that are actual premiers, and that can say to them, look, there were times where we thought we were, king of the hill, and then we got taught lessons by teams, and talk about the change in focus and how you change your focus, how you come off the back of big wins and refocus on a 0-0 contest that you're about to enter. That's what I would be looking to do, because I was a little bit worried about the celebration aspect that was going on, and I get it, because they put on a tremendous, like,
it was a clinic,
one of the greatest finals performance ever, and I get it, but yeah, I was worrying a little bit about that anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, there were 3 other games this weekend.
Yeah, let's cover them too.
So we'll work backwards as we have been. Yeah. So, what was it, the night before? Manly beat Cronulla 28-16 in what was possibly the most disappointing performance Cronulla's had this year.
Un-Cronulla-like, wasn't it? It was like the fire and the toughness and just that workman-like edge just was not there at all. And it was weird watching the Seagulls, because it was pretty early on that you were like, oh man, this contest is over.
Yeah,
it was really crazy.
Manly stunned with those 2 early tries, and Cronulla never got back into it. And I think Cronulla walked out on the field, and 25% of them of their mindset said, "We've already won this."
Yeah.
And they only played at 75% for the rest of the game. They scored 2 late tries in the second half, as they've been doing all year. But by then, they'd let the score go too far. It's too late to bring it back, and that was a woeful effort.
At the same time, though, the Seagulls, Cherry Evans put on one of the best performances of any player this year.
I would say it's his best season ever this year.
I think so too. When, it's not like his premiership year. He's not going to be premiers at the end of this year, I don't think. But I think from start to finish, he has really stood up. He's been a leader for this team. He's guided them around the park well. When things haven't been going their way, he's tried to drag them out of it. And in this game, he was absolutely the best performance of his career, I believe.
Look, it's right up there. And that's the thing, is that he's been carrying this bits and pieces Manly side around from the Barrett years to now. And it hasn't hurt him in any way. He's just got stronger and better. And
he's made his teammates better too, which is the main thing. That's the big one.
So let's think, if you took Cherry Evans out of that side, they are competing for the spoon.
Yeah, 100%.
Just phenomenal how much value he gives to that side. Sure, there are a lot of other players that are doing a lot of good work, but that Manly side is playing with I think this is their last year under the cap penalty they had imposed on them. Could be wrong. It's either this year or it was last year, but
I'm pretty sure it's this year. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that earlier this year ourselves.
Had a bits and pieces side. They've had to scratch around for a play. I mean, they were looking at Tony Bloody Williams. That's how scratchy they are. So, wouldn't be surprised if they get I think they've got their full cap back next year, so they might start trying to find one or two, maybe a centre to chuck into the side.
I'm trying to think. They'll probably need they'll probably want someone at hooker, I would guess.
That's true, yeah.
They're losing Coruscant. How excited were you when McNuggets scored? I was like, McNuggets, yes!
Oh, it was a great try too for McNuggets.
It was fantastic.
I saw him running along, and I swear there was someone on the fence just waving a 6-pack of McNuggets at him. He's going, oh.
Yeah. I think they got the extra performance out of him by having some McNuggets put on the outside. Was that McDonald's Monopoly thing?
What they would have done is they would have just someone in the back of the dressing shed would have just opened up one of the sweet and sour sauce sachets. Yeah. You go, I can smell that. There's it. And Des would have gone up to him and says, "Mate, there's a guy in the stand. He'll give you one if you score a try." He's like, Really? Yeah, man. You go score a try. Off you go.
I think that's exactly how it happened.
Des is a master.
He really is. It's weird, man. Talk about a change in your coaching career and change in fortune. When I was listening to the commentary for this game, and I can't remember who said it, but the commentary was infuriating through the whole game. But anyway, they were saying, Des has always managed to get his players fired up and always managed to get the best out of the teams he's coached. And I'm thinking, tell that to the bloody Bulldogs. Yeah. What the hell, man?
Yeah. Yes, not always.
Yeah.
I don't think the Sharks should be too disappointed with the season, given they had... I think this is either the first or the second week of the year where they had their full squad available.
Yeah. And they brought in a lot of younger players this year.
A lot of young guys.
They'll be really, really good for the run. I was thinking that with Sherry. What a fantastic first season he has had.
And Britton Nakora, I mean, that kid played Test footy this year. He's kind of gone under the radar since then, but he's had a stellar year. I mean, he's nailed down one of the back row spots. But there also comes a situation where Andrew Fafita, okay, he is a great prop when he's thinking about playing good footy. And I think I'd like to see him either be able to play 60 minutes or go out there and think about nothing but running forwards in a straight line. When Cronulla gets behind on the scoreboard, he starts drifting sideways, and that is the worst time you need him going sideways. They need him going forward at those moments. And this is not about him taking a soft option. It's about him trying too hard to try and create something, which, admittedly, he's that sort of a freakish player. He can create stuff, but not on every run.
No. And the other thing is, this has probably been his worst season that I can remember, where he's been playing and you kind of forget about him being on their field, where it's like he's just sort of, he's doing the job, but he's not doing anything special. And he's a special player. Like, when he is at his best, it's unfair. And there's just been too many games this year where he's just been a bit meh,
Yeah. Also, I think they need to find a way to get rid of Aaron Woods.
Yes, 100%.
They also need to find a way to get rid of Matt Moylan.
Yep.
For two reasons, okay? And one is, obviously, I don't think either of them add that much to this side. And secondly, they've got some salary cap issues, and getting rid of those two players would free up well over $1 million in the cap. And that would surely fix things up for them salary cap wise. There's talk that Dugan might be on the way out. I think if Dugan is allowed to stay at fullback and is allowed to actually have the full season there, he would be perfectly fine. His style suits what the Sharks need, and that is a hard running fullback. And he's been playing good the last half of the year too.
He has, but I feel as though Dugan is the classic example of getting rid of somebody a year early rather than a year late. That's
true, I guess. But then again, this has probably been his best year at the Sharks.
I think so too. And he's played a lot of different positions as well.
Yeah, and that's more credit to him because he's been at centre, he's been on the wing, he's been at fullback. He's a better fullback than Moylan.
Definitely, 100%. You know what? If I was the Sharks, I'd be offering Moylan to the Broncos, and I wouldn't be shocked if they bit.
It's not bad, actually.
Yeah, because they're going to want to get somebody that they feel that has a bit of a star quality about them, and if it would let Milford go back into 5'8". And I could see where they would be like, oh yeah, let's get Moylan in. And I mean, I think it'd be a terrible thing. I wouldn't do it personally if I was the Broncos, but I feel as though they might bite, especially after a loss like that. Seabold is now in job-saving mode, so he's going to be willing to make a splash. He's not going to be caring about the salary cap down the line. Yeah, that might be a nice fit there. Not that Absolutely. I would do it, but for them, from their point of view.
Yeah. But yeah, they're the two they really need to think about moving on.
Yeah.
Only because it's not even dissing Aaron Woods. He's actually been pretty decent this back half of this season as well, but it's the fact that he's just too expensive.
And soft as fuck.
If they had him for $300,000 or $400,000 a year, fair enough. That's probably the going rate for a bench forward these days anyway.
Yeah.
But he's on what, 800,000-900,000? It's just too much. Yeah. It's too much. So I'd be moving him on. So next game.
Yeah.
Canberra stole one from Melbourne again. Down there in Melbourne.
Yeah, how crazy was this one? Like, the Storm looked as though it was weird. For me, it felt like this game was going to plan, right? There was some misses by Crocker, some like posting about how he's a choker, and then the Storm get their try, and they just looked like they were going to do a typical Storm grind out the win. And then what happens? Bloody, who was it? Addo Carr runs the ball, loses it. They pass the fucking Raiders, pass it out wide and score. And it's like, hang on a second, that wasn't supposed to happen. And they managed to get the lead. And the stuff with the touch judge, I mean, that was ridiculous. I can't believe anyone was ever thinking about that stuff. You know, it's like, he cost us the game. It's like, dude, your team just threw the game away, literally threw the game away on their own try line. It wasn't the touch that did that. And I've got to say, in full speed, when I saw that kick go, the short kick off right near the end, I was like, I think he touched the sideline. And that's what I thought. And now in the replay, he didn't. But at full speed, I thought he touched it.
Yeah, I must admit, I was at a pub watching it with some friends, and I actually thought that because the scrum was a bit bigger, I instantly saw it, and I thought, I don't think he went in a touch.
Yeah,
and
I was watching on an 82-inch screen.
There you go.
And I thought, oh yeah, he touched that, and then they replayed it, and I was like, I was.
There was there was an awful lot of people complaining at the time about how it cost them the match. I just thought, no,
so stupid.
It is. No refereeing decision costs a team a game. You've got 80 minutes to win a game.
But they
not one refereeing decision.
They literally threw the ball away on their own. And like there wasn't like one or two tackles. It was like immediately they scored. They literally threw the game away. And so I couldn't believe anyone was even mentioning that touch judge. Poor bloke. He makes one bad call in the whole game. It's like, oh, man.
I'll say one thing about him, and yes, I've been defending refs and stuff like that all year, and I always will do. The one thing that got me about that was curious is the touch judge was there. He looked at it, and then he hesitated. And then he put up his flag. I was like, what was that about?
I understand that. I feel as though...
I'm not saying there's anything dodgy going on. I'm just saying, like, you either know it's out or not. You put your flag up or you don't. And there was just hesitation there, and I thought, that's something right there. The players stopped where they could just say, look, touchy's not sure. Can we just have a quick look at the bunker? Just bang. They could do one look. And all it took was one camera angle on there, and they could show us straight away. And I know people are going to sit there and say, oh, the bunker does too much, it's too involved. It would stop people saying the referee cost us the game. They could have just gone and looked at it and said, oh, no, that's legit, play on. I don't think it would have changed the result in any way whatsoever. But, you know, I think the opportunity was there where they could have used it to resolve that issue straight away.
Well, I wonder how you would do, because it would just be a play the ball. And, the game stopped. It's kind of a weird situation in terms of it wasn't a double knock on and you've got a stoppage in play. They did have the scrum. Did they have the scrum? Yeah, it would have been scrum.
Yeah, it was a scrum to Canberra.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just find it's weird that if the referee blows them up as they're about to feed the scrum and says, "Hang on, we've got to go back here and just have a regular old play the ball." I don't know. For some reason, that feels weird to me.
Well, see, the thing I'm getting at is it wouldn't have taken long to confirm it.
No. The other thing is too, I'm very big on you've got to overcome everything. You've got to overcome the wind, the grass, the conditions, the referee, the touch. And so to me, that's just part of what you've got to overcome. And I think it's unfortunate it happened in that situation, but I always just go back to, man, they threw the game away. One thing I want to ask you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried at all about Crocker and his kicking? Because he missed some sitters. He missed some absolute gifts. And if he had just kicked them to begin with, it would have been a tied match at the point when they got the ball thrown to them to win anyway. But it would have been a tied game.
I don't know, though. I think he's always been a bit that way. His kicking has been down this year. I think this has been his worst year for goal kicking. He's kicking at 73% this year.
Mm-hmm.
His previous worst was 2012, where he kicked at 74%.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the more shots at goals he has in a season, the more he misses us, in the sense that the worse his goal kicking percentage is.
Yeah.
The only time there was a real buck in that trend was 2016, when he was just nailing from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. So that's the thing. They can make a pretty quick decision on the field straight away if they think he's out of touch, and just hand it over to Caesar, because he's a near 80% goal kicker himself.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good luxury to have there.
But I tell you what, that kicks Crocker right in the balls for confidence, hey?
Probably, yeah. I don't think they'd take it off him though. Yeah, I don't think they'd take it off him though. Tell you what, one that surprised me was actually going back to another game, was how poorly Moses kicked today. Especially when there was no pressure on, he was still missing him, and he was missing him by a mile.
Yeah, I think he missed 5 all up.
Yeah.
And man, imagine if he'd got them, the scoreline would have been even worse. Yeah.
He's 70 points.
Depends how many he would have kicked from tries that were scored on the 5th, though.
Wow, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I was watching that game. The thing that I was kind of surprised about the Storm, there's a couple of things. First of all, I don't like the change that Bellamy has made, moving Brodie Croft out of the team at halfback. I don't know why he made that decision, but I don't think it's been one that's been a good one.
He made that decision because Hughes has been playing good all year, and Pappenheisen has been so good bringing the ball back that he had to fit them all in somewhere.
But he's a halfback, man.
Yeah, I get what you mean, though. I probably would have put Hughes on the bench and left Croft in the side, just for balance in the spine. But then you'd have to probably look at whether you keep Brendan Smith in the 13 then. It's one of those tough decisions to make, I guess. So you could either run with Brendan Smith and have him as a back rower and put Hughes on the bench as well, then have 2 props. That might work.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, you've got to have Brandon Smith inside. He's too good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just don't like, and I get that Hughes has played well all year, and I felt like Hughes, because Bellamy chucked him in I think it was the last round. It might have been the second last round. I can't remember. But he threw him in, and I thought he was just giving him a run in the halves, just to give him a look at it, just to give him that experience. And I actually like that, if that's what he was doing. But then when he played him in this game and with Croft out of the side, I mean, I actually rate Croft as a pretty damn good player and a very good halfback. And I just think that it hurts their attack. And I think Munster is less of a player without Croft there, because they link up really well, and I don't think that Munster and Hughes link up all that well. So that, to me,
think it's largely too because
their
Hughes
attack.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's largely because Hughes is kind of like just another version of Cameron Munster. It's like having 2 ball-playing 6s in the side.
A little bit, yeah. And I just don't think Hughes is all that good as a half at all. Like, no. I don't think he gives you anything close to what he was as a fullback. And I understand, like, Pappenhausen played great, but yeah, I think you've got to pick one and leave Croft in there. And what it leaves now is an interesting situation where if he decides to bring Croft back, Croft hasn't played in that side for a few weeks now, and he's going into an elimination game. I mean, man, that's a difficult situation that I feel as though Bellamy's made for himself.
I'll have to have a closer look. I'll watch the replay during the week. I wonder if Cameron Smith was playing more first receiver than dummy half in that game, because that might be the reason why Croft isn't there. They just thought, we'll just have Cameron at 7 for most of the attack, and that way we've got a 6 either side of him. It's like this old school thing that teams like South used to do in the 20s. Where you had one halfback and 2 5'8s.
Yeah.
You have a 5'8 on either side of the field, and halfback it's like having 3 halves on the field. It was a pretty crafty thing, and South were quite successful with it. And I do wonder if that's something that Bellamy's toying with because I have seen it happen from time to time in the past when he'd have Cronk in the halves and have just a random ball runner at 6. I think Kenny Bromwich played it. I think might have been at 6 once or twice, or was it Tohu Harris?
Yeah.
Used to do that a lot. Tohu Harris at 6 and just have Cronk pretty much controlling the game at 7, and Cameron would play a bit at 7 as well. It was really interesting dynamics. And it's something I don't think many people pick up on. I mean, I know I struggle to find it. It's only on really extreme times you sit there and go, Cameron Smith's been getting the ball an awful lot at second receiver or first receiver.
Yeah.
And I think having Brandon Smith on the bench is kind of a reason why that happens, because I think Brandon doesn't come on and play lock. He does tend to come on and do a fair bit of dummy half work.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be what's going on there.
That hasn't jumped out at me, but there were points in that game where I did feel as I was like, man, what's Cameron Smith doing getting the ball there? It was kind of weird. So yeah, that wouldn't shock me. And I guess if you do have Smith, you've got that luxury. If you've got Brandon Smith off the bench, you do have that luxury with Cameron Smith. Man,
it's ballsy.
It is ballsy, and this is why. The Storm don't have many problems. It's not like they're a team that need to find a trick play or a trick game plan to do well. Like they can go out with their stock standard stuff and win a minor premiership running away.
That's exactly right.
You know what? We got to talk about Fireworks Gate.
We do, yes.
They are now setting off mortar shells before the game to take out players.
As I said in the tweet at the time, even the pyrotechnics guy at Amy Park is a grub.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we need a word for this. Like you got the chicken wing, you got the crusher, you got all them ones. I feel like there needs to be is this the I don't know, pyro scandal or something like that? There needs to be something.
Someone being shot in the eye. Yeah.
Black Powder Gate.
Yeah, this sounds like it could go blue. They did get the debris out of his eye.
They did.
It was an interesting situation. I remember hearing I think it might have been the commentator saying at the time that they thought it was a bit unfair that Canberra would lose a substitute when Lailua had to come back on the field. And I get where they're coming from. It's a freak accident.
Yeah.
It's completely out of Canberra's control. They had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone could see that was what was going on. So I get where they're coming from. But at the same time, if he's legit and able to come back onto the field, then I can see where the NRL's coming from and just said, no, he's just been changed pre-match and everything's fine. He'll just be a bench player for this game. And I kind of accept that decision, to be honest.
And I feel as though the NRL was in a funny position in that, I'm pretty sure I'm saying I'm right in this, in that it's not the clubs that control the game day experience in the finals. It's the NRL itself, and it was probably their pyrotechnics that, shot fucking buckshot into his eye. And it's they're sitting there, and because you got to think of pretty quickly, someone's like, oh shit, we might have blinded a player. Oh, does that count as an interchange? It goes back on. Yeah, it does. It's just bad luck, man.
Write a rule on why you do it. Get the legal team on the phone.
I wonder if someone somewhere just asked a lawyer a question. It's serious, man. It's it's fucking Leilua, as he's rubbing his eye, and I guess at some point they're like, man, I hope his fucking eye's still there when he takes his hand away. Is somebody just calling up a lawyer and say, hey, just be on call just for the next half hour? I wonder.
Yeah. If you get that debris out, just roll it around in the dirt. Just make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah. It's interesting because they were saying that there was actual particle or something in his eye, be it like a metal shrapnel or something like that. And it reminded me of when I was a teenager and I got a fleck of metal. It wasn't a fleck of metal. It was a fleck of paint that had come off a rusty bit of metal that got stuck in. Went in my eye, but it got stuck on the upper eyelid, and it wouldn't. I couldn't get it out, and I had to fucking turn my upper eyelid inside out like a monster and scrape it off with my finger. Man, that hurt. My eye hurt for a couple of days after that. I can't even remember. I can't remember what the bit of metal was. But yeah.
So was it like 1-2 kilos?
Well, it was actually, when I pulled it out, it was actually like a whole Valiant. You know, a Valiant?
Oh,
The entire Valiant was stuck up in my eyeball. It was terrible. But and then the next day, my eye was red as I walked to school through 3 feet of snow for 12 miles. It was crazy. And you should have seen the size of the fish I caught that day.
Did you have to carry it all the way home?
Oh yeah. Not even in boats and stuff.
Yeah, plays these days soft.
Soft as fuck.
Now, we're on to the last game. I don't know why we left this one last.
Yeah, this game was a bludger. Yeah.
It was crap.
This game.
You know what? Last week ruined it. Round 25, we got an absolute bloody gorgeous, stunning, unbelievable performance from these two sides in a completely non-event.
Yep.
And the Roosters and Souths came out for this game, and the Roosters went, okay, let's go round 2. And Souths went, nah.
Yeah, Souths were like, oh, we're good. We're good, man.
Yeah. And Roosters just ran roughshod over them. It was a tough game to watch. It wasn't pretty.
It was a really bad game. I was surprised by the crowd. It was a very big crowd. That was kind of shock. But yeah, it was one of those games where South just didn't turn up. And they were lucky to not have more points put on them, quite honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, Latrell Mitchell, another poor goalkeeping performance actually this weekend in the finals. He missed 4 goals.
Mm.
So that could have been 38-6, which is probably a bit more telling.
Yeah, and that in the second half, it was 1 try apiece.
Mm.
And it was a real bludger of a game. I don't think that the Roosters did the job. They went out there, did the job, and that was it. But I don't think they would have been too happy with their performance. I think they would have wanted to have gone on with it a little bit. And South, I mean, after a big loss like that, they're going to get Sam Burgess back, but man, they looked so bad.
They're going to be up against Manly with a few players coming back as well, I think. So
yeah, Manly is going to turn up. They're going to turn up to rock and roll.
Yep.
And Souths are going to have to turn up as well. They should smash Manly. They really should, but thought the same thing about the Sharks as well too. So
that's right.
You never know in the finals, which is why it's beautiful.
Yeah. Going to be an absolute cracker of a set of games this week, which I suppose we can have a quick gander at.
Yeah, have a quick
so we've got on Friday night, Souths playing Manly at ANZ.
Yep.
And on Saturday, Melbourne plays Parramatta at Amy Park.
I feel as though that Storm Eels game is way, way, way more important. I feel as though I might have written off the Rabbitohs this year, and I don't think Manly can win it, but I feel as though that Storm versus Eel games, I believe the winner of Storm versus Eels goes on to take on the Roosters the following week, whereas the winner of the Rabbitohs versus Eagles takes on the Raiders down there in the nation's capital.
Yeah, that's a tough run, that is.
That's going to be, I mean, that'll be sellout down there. I would suggest the temperature, because it's the finals time, it's starting to warm up, but it's going to be colder there than everywhere else.
Yeah, it'll warm up. It'll be up to around about 0 degrees there by kickoff.
Yeah, and a balmy 0 degrees for Canberra.
Oh, yeah. The locals are getting out in singlets and shorts and thongs and hats with corks on them, that sort of shit.
Yep. And the crowd is going to be massively green. There's not too many other opposition fans are going to get into that stadium.
No.
They'll blow that horn, and then they'll do the Viking clap, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. You could go and hit Braddon, some of the food stands. Nice.
Do you reckon Canberra's a chance to get in the grand final then?
I really do, yeah. I really, really do.
Who do you reckon they're going to come up against then?
I feel as though I need to see the Storm this week. If the Storm bring Croft back in and they put one on the Eels, I feel as though the Storm would beat the Roosters and we'd see Canberra versus Melbourne in the grand final.
Wow.
How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking Canberra Roosters.
Yep. Okay.
At this stage, I think Melbourne gave close to their all during this last week game of finals, and it wasn't enough to beat Canberra. And I think the Roosters gave about 65-70% of what they're capable of, and they still put 30 points on against South.
Yep, I get that.
I think the Raiders are playing at their peak, and I think the Roosters still have got a bit more to give. So I put those two in the grand final.
I agree with all of that. And you'd think the Roosters would win going by that, yeah?
I'd probably go with the Roosters in the grand final. Okay. If I'm picking right now, this will change next week when all the results come in and I've got them all fucking wrong again like I did this week. Yeah. Based on this form, I'd say Roosters play Canberra in the grand final. Canberra might be 2 points ahead at half time. Roosters then put on 3 tries to 1 the second half to win it.
Okay.
I'll be that specific.
And Crocker misses all the goals.
Well, he can miss 4, and Canberra will lose by 6.
I tell you what, that was another thing about that Storm game I didn't like. I felt like the Storm should have been cracking Crocker's side open like an egg, and they weren't.
They took the penalty goals so often.
Yeah, and I feel as though that's a symptom of their halves being fucked around with. Because normally the Storm are the absolute best at running plays through their back line, and they don't have that same efficient sort of style of play when they've messed around with their back line. I don't know why Bellamy's done it. I really don't. I think he's fucked it up.
Don't know. I think he's essentially trying to fit 3 players into 2 positions when he probably doesn't need to. He could probably just put one on the bench.
He needs to bite the bullet. He needs to just say, look, you're a good player, you're a first grader, you're a great, but man, I'm sorry, we just have too many good players.
Yeah. Will be interesting. Anything else we need to discuss now? We've got all the footy out of the way.
No, I think that was it. I guess the only other thing that jumped out at me from this finals, week 1, was how bad some of the commentary was. Like there were a lot of those comments that it was like they didn't like it when the referees got the decisions wrong, and they didn't like it when the referees got the decisions right. And man, it turned into a whinge fest. Phil Gould was whinging his ass off in this game. These games, it was terrible.
Gus is harder to listen to when the games get more important.
Yeah. And I tell you the other thing, Andrew Johns, man.
He's fast becoming Gus Gould.
Well, it's some of the stuff he's talking about. And this is one of the great rugby league brains we've ever had, right? That's why he's there. Some of the stuff he's talking about is just goofy. Like, pie in the sky shit. I don't want to hear that. I want them to tell me some shit I don't know. That's their job. I'm not there. If I wanted to have a laugh with some friends, man, I'd try and find some friends. I'd actually make some friends and laugh with them about whatever people that are friends laugh about. I mean, I'm guessing that it's like, I don't know, like accidents and, people that have been attacked by wild animals. That's what I would laugh about. But you know,
I just
maybe
I just get Braith and Essa to come around.
yeah, wouldn't that be good?
He
Can you
can just do some
imagine if
stand up for me.
Fox Sports should do a thing, have grand final day with Braith and Asta, and he turns up like fully dressed, kitted up like he does for his commentary, right?
Yeah.
And he walks around all night talking into a microphone that's not plugged in.
Ha ha ha.
That would be so fucking cool.
But I don't know, you'd have to record it though, but just don't broadcast it because
Don't
that would be awesome.
broadcast it.
No,
Yeah.
that'd just be awesome to listen to later.
And just can you imagine? You just get and he's fully professional with everything he does, right?
Oh yeah.
You get absolutely shit faced, and he's not drinking a drop. And man, it would be the funniest, greatest grand final experience I could think of.
Braith is brilliant. I started the year thinking he was just irritating and annoying, but I've come to realise that he was just trolling. He's a genuine comedian.
He really is. He really is.
Because the worst commentator by far it's a toss-up between Corey Parker and Justin Hodges.
I would say Justin Hodges.
Just pips Scott Prince on the all-time list.
Matt Nable. A lot of people didn't like Matt Nable. So that was his name, eh? Matt Nable.
Matt Nable. Oh, the shouter. He just randomly shouted players' names.
What was the name? You won't have seen the movie because you don't watch movies.
That's right.
Trying to think of the name of the bounty hunter, and Matt Nable played his dad in the movie Riddick.
Well, I just want to qualify. I just want to qualify one thing here. I do watch movies so long as they're Die Hard.
It's just Die Hard, and the original Die Hard. None of that other bullshit.
That's correct. Yeah, just the first one. No, I've also seen the telly movie, The First Kangaroos.
What is The First Kangaroos?
You've not seen it?
No.
No, it was done in the late 80s, I believe. It was a 2-part TV miniseries thing about the Australian Rugby League team that went over to England. And it was a mixture of fact, hearsay, and comedy. And I remember the first time I was watching it going, oh, so that's how it happened. And then that was when I was 12 or 13 years old. And then I learned about all the stuff that went on that tour and around that period of time and watched it again and went, this is bullshit. There's so many things that are wrong. And then I watched it again later on and going, you know what? Put aside the facts of it, okay? This is bloody entertaining. And it's actually very, very good entertaining. It's got the bloke from Minder on it, I think it was.
Minder?
Dennis Waterman?
Nah, I got nothing.
He played the English star player.
Oh, really?
And there's a great scene where he goes to a pub. All the interactions he has are all comedy genius. Like his entire role in this whole movie is the comedy part. And I'm not saying that as being flippant or anything like that. That's generally how it is. Yeah. So there's one scene there. He goes to a bar, and the barman says, he's playing Albert Goldthorpe. He says, I've got a letter for you here, Albert. And he's going, oh, aye. He has a sip of his beer. He says, it's from Australia. There's another sip. He goes, oh. Know anyone from Australia, do you, Albert? He's like, no. None of my family are criminals.
Oh, jeez. Maybe we should watch this and podcast it.
It gets better because then he takes a quick sip.
Yeah.
And then he looks at him. He says, well, can I have it? Oh, yeah, here's your letter.
It's so weird.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's really good comedy. Yeah, I'll have to. I'll put it on for you and we can watch it. It's brilliant stuff.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I found out Matt Nable played Boss Johns in Riddick, and he wanted to get Riddick and find out what had happened to his son in the original Pitch Black movie.
Shout at him.
There was a fair bit of shouting. He played it cool at first, and then he sort of he come out and sort of told everyone who he was, and it made it really clear. I'm actually having a look here at what roles he's played in. I'm trying to find anything that really jumps out, because that's the one I remember him in. He was in Gallipoli, apparently.
He's in the final winter.
I feel like I watch that.
It's the one about the football player in his final year playing for Newtown, and Newtown's between being an old 1930s type club and about to take on some corporate sponsors, and how they're trying to move in that direction. And the club's struggling at the same time.
I saw another one. I saw Footy Legends, I think it was.
Oh, he's not in that one, I don't think.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking through this list of stuff. There's nothing here that jumps out at me. And fair enough, like, he's an actor. There's nothing wrong with the stuff he's done. But that's the one I remember him as. And he was really good in that role too, actually. He nailed it. He was good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So he's got this thing where sometimes he can be a bit either shouty or a bit mumbly.
I wonder if we could get him on the podcast, talk to him a bit about stuff.
Kind of like me, I guess.
See, I don't think I mumble, but I do shout sometimes.
Yeah, I do shout.
Yeah.
I think I mumble a fair bit.
All right.
But there you go.
You get told off for mumbling.
I get told off for everything.
What is it? Okay, I got a question for you. Because when the Sharks got whipped, right, I was like, oh, man, how does Andrew deal with that?
Yeah, just say, there's another football season next year. And when that doesn't work, just say, at least you made the finals.
Yeah. Well, our approach is very, very different. I basically, any chick that I'm with, she tells me a football team, and that's just a point that I attack constantly. Like, non-stop. There's no mercy in it.
No, I'm quite the diplomat at home.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's probably why you're married and I'm not, hey?
That's probably true.
It purely comes down to football.
The way you approach it. See, that's the thing, though. I made sure I pick a fan who I can tolerate. They go for a team that I can tolerate, I should say.
I don't know that I could. I don't even think I could tolerate a Panthers fan, though.
Which fan could you tolerate other than a Panthers fan?
Trying to think.
Salford?
Listen, I'm trying. You don't realise this. I'm stepping over minefields right now, okay? Not saying stuff that I would love to be just open up and be like, well, guess what? But I'm just going to say that I'm probably better off without a rugby league fan. Just a chick that doesn't know what rugby league's about.
So an AFL fan?
Well, yeah, but she'd have to give up AFL. There's so many things that I've just wanted to blurt out, and I'm being really good, hey?
Yeah, I'm showing you that path. I've cleaned it all up nice and neat.
You really are.
I've got some lights all over the path there.
Yeah.
The gate's down the end. It's open.
Yeah.
Go for the stroll, Freaky. No, I'm not. Good work. Alrighty.
I'd fuck the AFL out of her, Andrew. That's what I'd do.
There we go.
I feel like a release, It's like, oh, I got to get it out. Yeah.
There we go. Alrighty. Now that we're both satisfied.
Was it good for you too?
Oh, mate. You know it.
Oh, okay.
Right, well, we'll wrap this one up. So, people, if you want to get in touch with us, over onto Twitter, at Andrew RP, at League Freak, at Fergo Freak Pod. You'll find us there a lot of the time. Send us messages, send us questions, we'll answer them.
Yeah, we try our best to answer every question that's sent to us. Sometimes we're getting so much messaging and stuff like that we won't answer something here and there, and it's not on purpose. It's not because we forgot you. Sometimes I know I pick up my phone, I'll see a really good question, I'll be like, oh, I'll come back to that one, but then by the time I come back to my phone, it's like 20 more tweets that I've got to go through and stuff, and So if I miss out on something you've sent me, it's not on purpose. I'm very sorry. And I know Andrew's the same way. It's just we get through a lot.
Yeah, I get a ton of questions about stats, and Freaky just gets a lot of, I don't know, I guess that's a combination between questions and arguments.
Well, not too many arguments lately, although I did start tweeting to a long-term follower of mine about how I was living in their roof earlier today, and then just random shit like that. So I tweet about all sorts of stuff. It's a bit
Tidy.
I'm a weirdo.
You can also get in touch via email, podcast, what is it? Podcast at leaguefreak.com.
Yep, that's the one. Podcast at leaguefreak.com. Send us questions. If you want to sponsor the podcast, get in touch. We'll tell you all of our rates and what we offer for potential sponsors. So yeah, that's a really good way to get in touch with us. If you want a long reply from us, that's really good. Or if you have an idea for the podcast, an idea for a subject, just get in touch through there and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely. We're also on YouTube. Go over there, subscribe, like all the videos, give us a thumbs up and stuff. Yeah, give us a subscribe and a review, 5-star rating over there on your podcast host, whichever one it is you listen to.
On your apps.
Your apps.
Spotify, Apple. Go on an Apple one and just give us 5 stars at the very least. That'd be great.
Awesome. And I just want to share, my daughter's told me her first joke today.
Oh, tell us it.
Why did the biscuit go to the doctor?
Why?
He's feeling crummy.
That's pretty good, actually. Good start.
I don't know where she got it from, but it's a bloody good start, so I'm happy with that.
Very, very.
And on that lighthearted note, we actually gave you some comedy at the end there.
Yeah. Just remember, everybody, do not overtake turning vehicle.
That is fantastic advice. And on that note, we'll catch you all later.